All right, I'm taking the plunge. Yesterday, I made a video talking about why I think Stripe is not OP, and I got a ton of really good feedback from the community. I just want to say, like, first off, a very big thank you to the people that actually left like cohesive points and like arguments for why they think that Stripe is unbalanced, or the parts of the kit specifically that stick out. I got a lot of insight from a lot of people at different levels, different inputs, different platforms, and it really helped me to get a better like idea as a whole of Stripe and the balance of Stripe. I still will stand by, in my personal experience, I don't find Stripe to be OP, but I have a whole list of changes here that I think would overall make Stripe more fun to play against, and more balanced within MultiVersus, because I do think that he's really good right now. I think that he's definitely standing out as one of the stronger characters in MultiVersus, and I don't think that's really a problem, but I just think that all of these things together would make Stripe harder to play, but more rewarding to play. I also just kind of am seeing Stripe heading down a path similar to like Harley Quinn's path or Superman's path, where they just kind of become like this negative stigmatism in the community, where everybody just thinks that the people that play them are like these dirty rats that just suck and they hate them. And I don't want that. I don't want that for any character in MultiVersus, because MultiVersus is meant to be a game where you can play any character that you want and any character that you like, and I want that to stay viable without having characters that the community just hates. So I don't want Stripe to become a hated character. So yeah, all that talking out of the way, let's get into this list. First off, we need to talk about the gun, because the gun is the most like heavily debated topic in the community right now surrounding Stripe. So first things first, I don't think that it needs to have a charge up time or a travel time. I think that that's both like pretty stupid ideas. That's coming from people saying that it needs to have a charge time or a travel time. Just feels like it's coming from somebody that doesn't really understand like the roles or balance of MultiVersus. Stripe at the end of the day is an assassin character, and assassin's kits are meant to be built around a bunch of light, not much knockback, not much damage attacks that are all like super quick and they combo into each other well. Think about a character like Harley Quinn or a character like Finn that need to string together 10-15 hit combos on you to really get anything done, whereas you have characters like Superman that can just grab you and throw you off the map at 30%. So the assassin playstyle relies on quick attacks. So when you take the gun, which is the bread and butter of his combo game and his juggling game, and you add a travel time to it or a charge up time to it, that doesn't make much sense to me. And people have tried to use the logic of like, oh, well, it's like Rick's gun, but it's really not, because Rick is not an assassin. But the gun does need some changes. First off, it should be categorized as a projectile so that the projectile perks apply to it. One of the problems that I've noticed with Stripe right now is that with a lot of the characters in MultiVersus, you can take specific perks against them that help to make the experience much easier. Like against Tom and Jerry, you take the projectile perk that gives you a projectile block shield for 2 seconds after you get hit by a projectile. This should be able to be used with Stripe to prevent Stripe from spamming all of his bullets at you. But right now, the gun is not categorized as a projectile, so if you take that perk, it's just useless. The only thing it affects is the saw blades, which aren't getting spammed at you. So let's make the gun categorized as a projectile, even though it's still hit scan, so that it can activate that perk, and that perk alone would make playing against Stripe so much more bearable. I truly think that if nothing else on this list, as long as we make that perk work against Stripe, there is counterplay to Stripe, and it is much more easy and cohesive to play around Stripe's gun. Next, I think that the damage of the gun should be reflective of range, because the gun shouldn't necessarily be used for damage. It should be used for combo extending. There's people that play Stripe where they just hit an attack and then spam all 3 bullets to get the damage up, and I think that's kind of stupid. It defeats the purpose of playing an assassin character. You should be going for these long combos, these long air juggles where you try to like not let them touch the ground for 15 seconds. That's the cool part of playing as Stripe, not unloading 3 bullets into them. So let's make the damage reflective of range. Currently, the bullets do 4 damage per shot. Let's make it do 4 damage up close, 3 damage at medium range, and 2 damage at long range. So if you're across the map and he's shooting 3 bullets into you, it's only going to do 6 damage, and all of those shots have less knockback because they have less damage. But if they're up close to you, you're still getting that full amount of damage per shot. You're still combo extending. You're still adding to the damage of that combo. So you're being rewarded for the long strings of combos up close, and you're being rewarded for separating your shots because of that new projectile perk debuff. This will help against cheesy KOs that are across the map where you just shoot them 3 times and they die. And overall, if these changes were made to the gun, it would just make playing against the gun much more bearable while still keeping that reward there for Stripes that are good at juggling. That's it for the gun. Let me know what you think. Moving on to the saw blades, which are the next things that I want to talk about. I think that the saw blades need a rework to like the ideology of the saw blades and how their intended purpose is. Right now, I'm seeing that you're almost encouraged to use the saw blades as like a combo starter or a combo extender where you just throw it at the other person. I think that's really lame. It's just another projectile in the game. It's Rain Dog's projectile. Like, what's the point? But I think there's a really cool function of the saw blades where they go around platforms. That's so cool. And I think that we need to capitalize off of that and make that the main like advantage of using the saw blades. So let's lower the damage of saw blades to make it less about dealing damage. Let's change the saw blades knockback so that it's more vertical. So this would mean that when you get hit with a saw blade, instead of going horizontally, you're more inclined to go vertically. Like obviously there's still knockback influence that becomes a factor, but I want the saw blades to hit you up rather than out, if that makes sense. And then let's extend the duration of saw blades on platforms. This wouldn't affect anything outside of it being on platforms, but if you throw the saw blade on a platform and it's circling, it should last for longer. If we compare this to other map control like Harley's boxes last so much longer than Stripe's saw blades. And I think that the saw blades would be much better as a map control ability rather than an ability you just throw at them for damage. So if we made these changes where we lower the damage of the saw blade and we increase the time that it goes around platforms, and then we change the knockback to be more vertical, this would help so much. It would also help with edge guarding, because if you throw the saw blade at them on an edge guard, it's going to hit them up in the air and probably help them recover. There's been a lot of times where I've been saved by an enemy throwing a projectile at me because it hits me upwards and it allows me to get back on the stage. So let's make that happen with the saw blade so that people can't edge guard with 50 million projectiles. And then yeah, just overall make the ability intended to encourage players to use it around platforms for map control instead of as another damage object. I think this would make it much more bearable to play against Stripe and also add more strategy to Stripe's kit instead of just using it as another projectile copy and pasted from everybody else's kit. That's it for the saw blades. Again, let me know what you think. I'm open to hearing people's thoughts. Next, I want to talk about the forward air attack, because this is another like huge, heavily debated one. The forward air attack just needs nerfs. It's that simple. The forward air attack is too strong, and I think that the main thing from the forward air attack that's too strong isn't the damage or the knockback. It's just the hitbox. Like the hitbox of that ability is crazy. It feels, even when I'm playing, it feels like I'm hitting people that I should not be hitting. And it's not just the desync or poor server connection, because that's on every character in every matchup in the game. So I'm very used to feeling that desync and poor server connection. But this is different, man. I'll be hitting them from like underneath them or above them with a forward attack, which just shouldn't be happening. And it feels almost like there's a 360 hitbox around him. I think probably 180 hitbox is more active. It's like it's a cone around the front of him that hits. And I guess like, oh, sure, he's like hitting his claws in a swing, but it's too good. So let's change that. Just make the hitbox tighter and more precise so that you actually have to hit them from in front of them with a forward attack. I know, crazy idea, but let's make you have to hit from in front with a forward attack. The forward air is, in my opinion, the only melee attack that's overtuned. There really is no other like melee ability within Stripe's kit that's OP. I know there's gonna be some people that say, oh, his light attack combo is overpowered. I've heard that a million times, but I just disagree with that. Even with all the feedback that I received yesterday that actually helped to change my mind about a lot of Stripe's kit after hearing all the feedback, I still don't think the light attack combo is overpowered or overtuned in any way. If we compare Stripe's light attack combo to something like Harley's, which number one does much more damage, number two lasts for longer, and number three carries you further across the map, and number four is part of an infinite combo that still hasn't been patched, Harley's light attack combo is much more of a problem than Stripe's. Let's compare it to Superman's, which carries you for longer, does much more damage because it does even more damage than Harley's light attack combo, which does 5 more damage than Stripe's light attack combo. I actually think it's 4 more damage, because I think Stripe's does 13 and Harley's does 17, and then Superman's does either 18 or 19. I don't remember the exact stat, but it's up there. Let's compare it to Finn's light attack, which is much quicker, has more knockback at the end, sets up for a better combo, and every single one of his hits is spawning gold, which help him to get to the speed boots, which just make him a speed demon. If he hits that full light attack combo, he's getting like 400 gold, and speed boots cost 500. So there's just so many other light attack combos that are much better than Stripe's light attack combo. I don't think Stripe's light attack combo is overpowered or needs to be addressed in any way. But yeah, forward air needs to be touched. The chainsaw, I want to mention this briefly because no balance changes need to happen to the chainsaw. This is the only time that I will say skill issue in this video. If you are consistently being hit by Stripe's chainsaw, it is a skill issue. You need to work on your overcommitments and you need to work on your positioning. If you are finding yourself in situations where you're getting a very early audio cue, a very early visual cue, and a very predictable path that he travels when he uses the chainsaw, and you are still consistently being hit by it, that is your fault. It is not that the move is overpowered, it is your fault. For the people that say, well, the chainsaw has insane priority, it should. The chainsaw should have the highest priority in the entire game, in my opinion. There should be no move that takes priority over that chainsaw. If it hits you and you hit it, it should take priority. It is a chainsaw that he is flying at you with. It doesn't make sense that punching him would take priority. It also doesn't make sense that a light attack punch that comes out instantly and has hardly any animation or whiff recovery should have the same priority as a chainsaw that takes a long time to charge up and has the most predictable path in the game. You can't change the path. You can't alter it with knockback influence or just influence where it goes, like Superman's flying. You should not be getting hit by the chainsaw. Like, I really just don't know how else to put it. No top level players are consistently getting bullied with the chainsaw, and if you are getting bullied with the chainsaw, it is your fault. Again, that's the only time that I will say that something in this video is just comes down to a skill issue or something, because the gun is too oppressive. I've suggested the changes there. The forward air is too oppressive. I've suggested the changes there. And I think the saw blades need to be changed just so that they're not just another projectile that you can throw, because that becomes too oppressive when in edge guarding situations when you can just throw it at him. But the chainsaw, it's your fault. That's it. As for the up special, I think this needs to be changed, not because it's OP, but because it doesn't really make sense to me. The up special and the up light are the same move, except the up special does 1 more damage and has a little bit more vacuuming to it. There's no reason to use one over the other, really. So I would like to see the up special do more damage, but have more whiff recoveries. So there's actually like a trade-off for a high risk, high reward situation where the up special is harder to hit and more predictable, easier to dodge, all that, because it has like a little bit of a buffer before it uses it, similar to Gizmo's up special. But it should also do more damage and do more knockback because Stripe's only kill move is his chainsaw. So I think that if he had that up special as a kill move, especially since the ceilings are obviously lower than the edges of the screen are pressed in, so it's easier to KO vertically than it is horizontally, I think it would be cool to see the up special turn into a heavier hitting KO move rather than just literally the same copy and paste move as the up light. Like, let me show you. This will be the only time that I actually show you guys something in this, because I'll have B-roll playing in the background. Let me hit an up light real quick. There it is. And let me hit an up special. It's the same move. Like, they're the same. And like I said, the up special literally only does 1 more damage, so there's no risk reward of using it. It's just the same move with +1 slapped on. So if we made this a heavier but harder hitting move, it would, number 1, make juggling more difficult because you don't get 2 variations of the same move for air juggling. Number 2, it would make attack decay kick in much more often for spammers that are just spamming the up attacks over and over. That's the number 1 most annoying thing about characters that have strong aerial game. For example, Finn, for example, Harley, for example, Bugs, because they can just spam their up moves at you over and over, and there's not really any counterplay to it, because once you run out of dodges, you're stuck in the air, falling in a very predictable path over and over. So attack decay would kick in much more often with the up light because you don't have the up special as a constant fallback, but you'd still be able to use both for juggling, just a lot more like thinking involved and trying to like decide when to use the higher risk, higher reward move and when to just use the up light, which has less range, less damage, less knockback, but it's easier to hit and quicker to come out. So yeah, that's my proposition. That's all the balance changes that I think should be done to Stripe. Again, I don't think Stripe is crazy OP, but all of these changes combined, they aren't necessarily just like hard nerfing Stripe, but they also are changing the kit in ways that would help make him less annoying and just overall more balanced. And I think it would feel like more complete kit that has like definite strategies to it besides just press buttons and win, lol. Because I definitely don't like the characters in this game where it feels like you just press buttons. For example, like Shaggy, even Finn to a degree, even though I really enjoy Finn's aerial game, once you like start to actually think about it and start to take a lot more combos into account, but it's very easy to just pick up Finn and press buttons. I don't like any characters like that, and Stripe is a bit of a character like that. I do think that Stripe is a little bit more complex with his gunshots and like his saw blades and everything if you use him in a way that's more complex, but I will admit it's pretty easy to just pick up Stripe and press buttons and win. All in all, I think these changes are pretty good. I've been recording for 15 minutes and I don't want this video to be 15 minutes, so I hope my editor can do a good job cutting it down. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Again, I'll end this video the same way I ended the last one. Don't come into my comments and spew random toxicity and slurs. Not cool. Instead, let's have actual thoughtful discussions. You comment what you think in response to what I think, and then I will comment what I think in response to what you think. That's how conversations work in the adult world. It's not just you being negative and screaming all the reasons that you hate me because I suggested something that you don't want. Yeah, thank you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, guys.